So I'm clearing my the social ostracism that I face. I know even before my breakfast, I drink moringa powder ever since then. It's funny with my complaints with schizophrenia. I was entering the eye doctor, and the lady, I was limping and holding on to myself. And she's rolling her eyes because they hear me. And your esophagus. And I'm like, yeah, my esophagus hurts. And she's like, well, whatever. Like, she was not very empathetic about my pain. Well, lo and behold, at the new supermarket up the street, there's this product. Reads very promising. In fact, is very true to its promises. Esophagus pain no more. Moringa powder. I take this every day with lactose-free milk. So this is like my breakfast, my superfood breakfast. And I eat that and some fruit like apple or melon or I don't know, whatever other fruit to start with. Later on, potatoes, something more solid after that, like gluten-free tortilla, gluten-free bread. So anyway, and speaking about the other topic that I could not speak about during the trial, I'm terminally ill right now. I think I'm terminally ill, and I have to do a lot of self-reflection. So within the self-reflection, I'm finding that despite being very like like obedient to the to the narcotic ordinances in writing, I'm uh, I'm not against narcotics. I am actually, if I could have gone to trial, I would have to definitely stand trial before 12 people about um, all topics that are, you know, a criminal, uh, a criminal life. Um, I was just born into a criminal life. I didn't know until, well, I'm listening to myself. I'm reading it as like, well, yeah, I'm innocent of it all. Could you believe me that my sustenance is like a life of crime? Yet I'm not guilty. I'm really not guilty of any of that. The false birth certificate, the believing the psychiatrist who tricked me into the substance that that I was held in contempt for. So really, the mental illness, is related to others' opinions about what I should do with my life. Everybody can meddle, that can meddled. And I am, because as the textbook shows, my brain is different, physically different. I'm making a self-disclosure as if I were on trial, because missing the trial is making me expectant of different funeral arrangements. You see, I had purchased tranquility, peace of mind with Rose Hills Mortuary when I was 19 years old about proper disposal of my remains. So now that the 383 bodies across the border, the few hundred in Nevada, other hundreds in other continents, and other piles of near 100 in other funeral homes on this side of the border. Well, after, I purchased that arrangement when I was 19 years old. Now I'm 42, so the agreement back then is now void for all the reasons we spoke about during that gathering in that living room. That I don't enter anymore. I don't enter into leaving my parents' living room anymore since my mom's husband has been very blatantly bad, So anyway, um, as I was saying, the uh, necessity for me to talk about my stand on narcotics is to make the declaration that uh, that for me, there was uh, no prospect of forming a bond with people, with non-people, or whatever, monkeys. I don't know how you want to explain this, but well, I uh I was one of those people that went. Uh, I went knowing full well that that could be my last night on Earth. It was the most momentous time of my life. Those raves. I went to 3 raves because after the first rave, when I knew the effect that LSD had on me of the cardiac arrest, or I could not stop doing aerobics exercise. I did not have control of my motor skills. Only the music had control. So the music went on and on. My body went on and on until collapse. Literally could not breathe. And once it could resume breathing again, all it could do was continue aerobics until the substance wore off. And so I I knew that I had like well, Brian said that there was brain bleed. They started to tell me about brain bleeding from LSD usage, and so I guess my brain bled. I really showed because my senior photograph, my face was tilted like there was some real brain damage, some nerve damage, and as I explained earlier with the language too. So I chose that instead of feeling like there's someone to be family with on earth, that I feel like I want to live a long life, like I want to be on earth forever. They had already taught me the concept of forever. Yet I chose 2 more times after that near death experience to that's it. We were all in on that. I was the happiest I ever was. I was grateful that if I were to perish forever, never return to this world, like one of the other dead people I looked at, they were overdosing on ecstasy. I never had ecstasy, really. So I went for the LSD experience. When I went to the rave, I didn't care about ecstasy or any of the other drugs that people were offering me, like cocaine, ketamine, they lots of talks about heroin. Like I was um I went like straight to a like one of the most intense drug experiences that there could ever be in this world. And then we all chose to, yeah, okay, release me from living, because they won't let me go across the border. And so I was extremely depressed, suicidal, and that was the only thing that made me happy, because when I didn't die the first time, I afterwards, oh, I loved life. I loved how my accent changed a little bit. I loved how my personality had changed. It was like I love the after effects of the brain damage. So I I wanted to do that again if I felt like I learned, like I connected with some knowledge that somehow grabs my brain, while I don't know what the knowledge is, except to explain that as like extraterrestrial, alien sensation, like as if I could have knowledge about things that are not
describable with words, nor with the known images that I have ever looked at. And so I felt like aliens somewhat took my body, or other people want to say God, like back then I believed Jesus. So I returned from the LSD experience very respecting of spirituality, very anti-violence. I was immediately anti-violence, immediately anti any witchcraft that has anything to do with blood rituals. um I like had the greatest respect and love for every sentient being, even I feel even bad to swat a mosquito, and I was like I would feel bad to kill flies for a little while, until nowadays, well, um anyway, well, flies are, we um that's a different topic. So um so I was saying, oh, I had the biggest drug heart um from anyone that I've ever known, because I was choosing like that deep a drug experience as the ultimate to live for moment, worthy of death, if that was the side effect. I I don't know, because I was born sick, I guess. I mean, others did die on the ecstasy, and now that I'm so terminally ill, that's another like alternative to death, that uh, I I don't know. I'm trying to not feel pain. I'm trying to live longer, but when pressure is so severe, when the pain is really severe, that's when I'm calling for suicide, calling, for myself to record myself explaining my life story, my economic status. I've been unable to get health insurance since 2023. I suspected that my appointment for surgery for full hysterectomy on July of 2022 was a setup to um, not let me walk out of there alive anymore. Do the maybe some of the plundering that I'm trying to warn against. My body is not good as an organ donor, because not only because I'm against that. Since the LSD experience, I became anti-donor, um, and that's a lot of people are donors, but I'm not. I feel like I could never accept someone else's organ in me for transplant, and I never want my organ to be transplanted onto anyone else to extend their lives. I do, however, donate blood. So I'm a regular blood donor, and so that's where, well, how sick really am I if the Red Cross takes my blood and actually delivers my blood to hospitals? So there's questions of well, her illness and her perception of terminal illness is linked to her psychological status. Her psychological status involves a mob. You know, I am the subject of the mob mentalities, because I was, predestined for this, long as we have been a minority on this planet with brain, you know, maybe a little bit above a monkey's brain, but not quite like the others who have the senses. Like my parental senses are way skewed. Like I really am one of the worst parents, because I can't read my son the way that his other family could, his grandma, Charlene, that's now dead. That's why I was crying, because, after becoming this old and being so in love with living and people loving me to teach me about myself, better late than never. I feel love. I feel I feel cherished, I feel appreciated, I feel cared for, I feel capable of continuing to plan our path, together with my son in a logical, reasonable manner, without anger, without fear. Both of us tranquil, serene, and I have Anonymous to thank for that also. So, thank you, Anonymous, for helping us in this moment be possible, where I feel like I'm being heard, although I miss my trial and I've been suffering, the consequences of a bad reputation. Um, so I'm going to have my breakfast now. I love you so. I'm guessing you will listen to this. You're not anonymous. I love you, sister. If you somewhat maybe you don't like me smoking. She doesn't like me smoking pot. Smoke marijuana.